your background is what really caught my eye, and you know, where you were to where you are now is really impressive. And that's what I said, well, I gotta, you know what, I gotta speak with you about that. You want to talk a little bit about that? And then
I noticed your Yankee hat in the background. I just want you to see I'm on your side. I think the 13 streak, 13 games was great. I just hope to keep it up. Anyway, big Yankee fan. Okay, yeah, I grew up in Connecticut, hence being a Yankee fan. And yeah, then I did drugs and screwed my life up and became homeless. And then I stopped doing drugs and, became better. And that's a really quick version of a story that I have told quite a bit, as you can imagine. It's hard to feel much pride in having gotten out of a hole I dug for myself. I made a lot of stupid decisions. I was a young, angry kid. I was, I didn't get along with my dad. The whole thing. And you get older and you realize, a lot of people don't get along with their dad, and a lot of people are sad, and a lot of people are angry, and a lot of people are depressed or whatever. And the way I went about it was such a juvenile, immature, entitled, white suburban kid response to not getting everything the way I wanted it as fast as I wanted it. And I wish I could say I've shed those tendencies now that I'm, at the ripe old age of 51, but I haven't. I mean, these are just, these are part personality traits. These are things you work on, you do your meditation or your workout or whatever it is you're doing to improve yourself. But it's hard to take credit, or feel good, for stopping doing the drugs I never should have been doing in the first place. I hurt a lot of people. I lost a lot of people. I missed out on the best years of my mom. I didn't get to see my sister growing up. She's 12 years younger than I am, and she's basically like a sister slash daughter. My brother got addicted in the process. He died. He passed away from addiction. I lost, some of my best friends, and I lost the best years of my life. I lost my 20s. I could have been learning writing or going to school. I always had artistic talent, and everybody wants the young, the hot young star, right? They want the rising debut author. And I pissed away 10, 12 years, and then I spent the next 10, 12 years repairing the damage. So I'm finally coming into my own, and I'm 51 years old. I have after the motorcycle accident, which I'm sure we'll get to, but my body's breaking down. I got arthritis. I got rods and screws, and my hip hurts when it rains. So yeah, it's always nice when somebody says, "Hey, congratulations on doing that," and I really appreciate you saying that. But at the same time, it brings up,
Yeah, but from my perspective, you see a lot of people that were in your situation and never rose up. And you somehow found the strength and the fortitude and the tenacity to bring yourself up and to rise up and to maintain that. And so that's commendable. And but I understand your perspective as well.
Survivor's guilt is a real thing. There's also the idea why did I make it out? Why was I so blessed when there were people better than I was who didn't, and my brother was certainly is one of those people. So yeah, it's just it's a defining thing in my life, and I'll always be it'll be a part of me. But depending on the day, some days I feel better about it, some days I feel worse about it.
Yeah, well, my condolences for the loss of your brother. That's something that you never get over. And I was doing some research, and although I think Junkie Love was your first book, but you had another book previous to that of short stories, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I had there was a book called Choice Cuts and Wake the Undertaker, and it came out with a press so small it was essentially self-published. I had a publisher, I didn't self-publish, but Junkie Love was my first real book to come out. Although there's some moments in those first two books that are really quite enjoyable. Especially there's a story called Red Pistachios, published by the great Todd Robinson over at Thuglit. It still remains one of the favorite stories I've ever written. And there's also the plot of the big New York Times best-selling book, The Plot. And Todd and I are thinking of suing just kidding, but it really does kind of rip off our storyline, which pisses us off. But Junkie Love is my first book that to kind of break, get me some, traction. It's it's fallen into that dreaded. I mean, it sounds nice, but when you call it a cult novel, it's nice because there is a very rabid, loyal fan base for it. Unfortunately, that doesn't translate into guest appearances on Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah. Yeah. Your writing style, I see a quote and on your Wikipedia page, gritty, real, and raw. So when you write, do you draw those emotions that you've had and still have and put that into your narrative?
Yeah, I mean, I think any writer's voice is, it's authorial fingerprint is distinct, and we all know that. And you can't, only you can tell your story, and yeah, there's a certain darkness and a grittiness and a rawness. It's funny because I'm in the process of trying to shake some of those qualities, to get a wider audience. I've written books about downtrodden and the down and outs and the hard luck and the hard scrabble anti-hero, and I've done okay, but as an artist, you want to challenge yourself, you want to push, you want to grow, and in moving more into domestic psychological thrillers, because it's been a long time since I've eaten out of a garbage can or lived under a bridge. I golf weekly at my country club down the street, and I live in a nice house, a nice suburban neighborhood. We got a lovely cul-de-sac, and my wife had planted her succulent garden in the back. Like, I'm not a junkie anymore. That's not me. And to keep going back and mining that is, I feel like I wrapped up that narrative with a book called Say My Name, which is, I hope going to be published soon, but I feel like I sort of tied the bow on that chapter. So right now I'm trying to be a little less gritty, real, and raw. Although, I mean, who you are is always going to come through in your writing. And like I said, I'm not the sunniest of people. I don't wake up and see a world of possibility. It's just not in my nature. I know some people are, and that's terrific. Gratitude, #blessed. I'm not that guy. I don't have a laugh, live, love thing on my wall. My thing on my wall says, dysfunction, the only consistent feature of all your dissatisfying relationships is you. I'm just, I'm kind of a dark guy. Like, that's where I roll.
Yeah.
Or how I roll, or whatever the expression is. Try not to swear. I'm used to swearing. I swear an awful lot, so I'm trying not to swear.
Hey, I'm an ex-trooper, so I mean that's it's part of my my lingo, my parlance, if you will. I see also you are a musician as well, and you got a guitar in the background. What guitar is that?
That's it. That's an Ibanez acoustic, and Ibanez is not known for making particularly good acoustic guitars, but it's a fantastic guitar. I've had that since 2004. Was the first thing I bought when my mother died and left me some life insurance, which sounds kind of morbid. Maybe that's why I keep it around. I don't know. It's a great sounding guitar. Sunburst, and yeah, I mean, I'm a child of Springsteen. I grew up on the East Coast. You probably saw that I edited that anthology, Trouble in the Heartland, stories inspired by Bruce Springsteen, crime stories. Yeah, I mean, the boss is another guy who writes about the anti-hero, the hard luck. And there's another guy who, I don't know, you just saw his bit on Broadway where he confesses how he's never worked a day job. He's made an entire life, his entire career is a lie. It's a tongue-in-cheek bit, but it's great. But there is something about that world, and that the guy that wakes up at 5 a.m. to go to the factory job, who's dying little by little, piece by piece. It's romantic and beautiful, and that's what's always caught my eye. And that's what brought me to music. It's what brought me to writing. It's what what made me embrace the tag of artist. If I had my way, I'd be playing right field for the Yankees, but I can't hit a curveball, and can't get a career that way.
Yeah. No, tell me about that. And your quest, which is probably very similar to every other author out there, mine as well, is to broaden your your reader base. And you had mentioned a book that you're hoping to come out. Is that your next book? What's your next book that's coming out that's to be published?
So the last book came out, Shadow People, and I'm in this weird state of limbo. I have two books finished. I'd argue the two best books I've written, All Who Wander and Say My Name. And Say My Name especially came very close with some very big publishers and some close to some very big money, and it fell just short, which is part of the infuriating aspect of this business. And so, but once you dust yourself off, and then you got to figure out, and you get your agent to decide, we're going to take this deal, which is less money and all that. So I don't know what's coming out next. I know I have two finished books. I can have them published at any point. It's just a matter of who's going to give me the most money. I'm tired of them. I love all my publishers. Ocean View is wonderful. Polis has been wonderful. They're great publishers, but they're hamstrung by just the fact they're a mid-sized indie. There's only so much they can do. There's only so much they can do with publicity and advertising. And to really break out, you need kind of the bigger backing of bigger advertising. You can't read a book if you haven't heard about it, right? I mean, so and these guys are hamstrung just by the realities of the limitations of this business. There's only so much they can invest in a book that's only going to make so much money. So the gap, much like our real life society, between the haves and the have-nots, is gigantic, right? And you've got to the big four, or I don't even know, it could be a big three by now. If they probably sold. They keep meshing. I can't keep track. So it was big six, and it was big five, big four. So you got to get up there, and I don't know. If the books I have right now, it does not look like either of those is going to a big house, which means I'm left with the decision: do I want to keep going the route I've gone, and I can publish with mid-sized indies till the day I die. And like I said, I love these people. Ocean View and Polis are just, I can't say enough about them. They're terrific presses, and they've done nothing but good things for me. But yeah, I want to make the jump. I want to.
Sure. Yeah. No, I know how you feel. That's exactly where I am now. I'm at a phase now where I'm looking to expand my horizon, get away from my publisher, and actually grab an agent. I don't have an agent. And I just, just went down the road of fiction, which is being edited now. I normally write true crime. So do you write entirely mystery fiction? Is that what you're writing?
I'm captivated by the Jeter picture. I just noticed in the background. What a great catch that was. I mean, and that was the game where you saw the difference between the Yankees and the Red Sox. There was Nomar sitting on the dugout on the bench pouting, and Jeter in a regular season game diving headfirst into the stands and cutting up his face. God, I love that guy. Yeah. Sorry, what was your question?
I remember that game. I was watching it. Not a big sports fan. My wife and my son are, so we were watching it when it happened, and it's phenomenal. It's a great picture.
Just one of those players. Even Sox fans, nobody says anything bad about Jeter. Everyone loves Jeter. He was a class act. Where's A-Rod? Not my favorite player, but Jeter, God, I love him. But you asked the question.
Yeah, he was a great leader as well. Well, I know you have. I want to talk a little bit about your Jay Porter mystery series.
Sure.
Describe the character.
Well, as I always would say, is Jay Porter is me, but I'm not Jay Porter. Jay's a more depressed, dour, darker, less sunny version of me, which people who know me would find it pretty funny, because, like I said, I'm not the I don't know. You don't watch a lot. I don't know how much TV you watch, but you rarely find. Once in a while, you find a character on TV, right? And you're like, holy, that kind of reminds me of me. And there's this show called Ted Lasso we've been watching, and there's a character called Roy Kent. And every time I see him, I'm like, God, there's somebody I know I can be friends with. Just somebody who every time you see him, they just growl. But Jay Porter's even worse than that. Jay's somebody who lost his brother, like I lost my brother. But he drinks to, he's an alcoholic. Whereas, I have a couple beers and that's good enough. Jay drinks till he passes out. Jay, I'm not the most tech savvy, but Jay is like barely can work the internet. He's in a lot of ways, he's not the alcoholic part. but he's based on my half brother Jay Streeter, who was one of my father's many illegitimate children. Papa was a Rolling Stone, and he would just tell me about his life in New Hampshire. And it was just so fascinating, this small town life where, you know, you'd stop. Like the story that started off was, he would tell me how there's a woman in town, and she was just like a single mom. But all the workers, all the guys that woke up at 5 a.m, would just stop by and she'd serve them breakfast, you know, like $2 for a plate of eggs and bacon, which I just love that idea. Like it's such an informal restaurant, but it's just somebody's house. That scene actually got cut from the books. It just didn't work. But I like that small town, tight knit. And Lamentation, the mountain range is based on the Lamentation mountain range in Connecticut, but I put up in New Hampshire, and make it more of a goldfish bowl that kind of locks everybody in, you know. So, you know, there's a sense you can't escape. You know, it's hard to escape our class. You know, we have this, the American dream is terrific. You know, I think that's I could actually a tagline for one of the Jay Porter books. The American dream is great as long as you don't wake up, something like that. You can maintain your status, but making a leap despite what is sold to us is really hard. Like it's hard to move up classes, and there's places like Ashton, New Hampshire, which you know, I know a lot of towns that way and people that way, and they just, you know, again, it's the Springsteen song. They have the look in their eyes of hatred for just being born. And this world has a way of chipping away at you and chipping away until there's not much left. And the thing with Jay is that he has one quest, and that is to avenge his brother's death. I won't call it a murder. We'll just call it death because, you know, it's complicated. But in a way, Jay feels a sense of guilt, much like I feel a sense about my brother. And so, you know, you're working on those things. And then there's other elements that come into the Porter series. My dad worked for the Manafort family. I'm sure you know Paul Manafort. There's only like 12 Manaforts. It's a made-up family name. The truth is they really are, the whole family's full of, they're just scumbags, horrible people. My brother was married to a cousin. My dad worked for one of the brothers. And basically, the Lombardi brothers in the Porter series are based on the Manafort brothers. Yeah, just awful people. But, you know, it's an environmental justice kind of backstory. But at the heart of the story, it really comes down to the character of Jay, who is somebody who is a Pyrrhic victory. He's going to win the war, and it's going to cost him everything, you know. And that's you know, cut your nose off to spite your face, which is sort of what I'm best at. I've made a career of it. No one's better. Yeah, banging their head against the wall. That's what I do.
Let me ask you this, because I'm quite impressed when you say you got 2 books that are actually manuscripts that are already complete. How do you keep up with the volume?
I had a hard time after Josh, my brother, died. And that was probably the longest I went without writing. And it was only like 6 months. And then I you know, in fact, I might have, in fact, when I'm going to think about it, he died in November and I began writing a book in January. So no, you know, it's like a month of mourning. I write 2 books a year. I write a book in January and I write a book in August, you know, roughly, you know. And it's just a pace I keep up. It's kind of like becomes part of your circadian rhythm or whatever. I don't know. It's like, it's just all of a sudden August comes around, I'm writing a book. January comes around, I'm writing a book. And I mean, it has something to do. I have 2 little kids, so it's hard to write in the summer. And once they're back in school, that plays a factor into it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, when you're given a chance, the second chance, like I've been given, and you know, I'm talking about, you know, do laugh, live, love, and all that. But you know, I'd be a complete jackass if I didn't acknowledge the huge second chance I've been given. I mean, I should have died a number of times. I was left for dead. You know, the overdoses and all that. You know, I shouldn't be here, and I am here. And when you're granted a second chance by, I mean, you know, everyone has a different word for God, the universe, higher power, whatever you want to call it. It's none of my business. I mean, I believe in God, but who gives a shit? But I feel like I was granted, I was spared, you know. And the least I can do now is take this God-given talent and do something with it, you know. And writing 2 books a year, that's not asking a whole hell of a lot, I don't think. I mean, I don't have a day job. You know, that's you know, I'm fortunate enough not to have a day job. So if people need a reason to hate me, there you go. But I've always hated the concept of a 9-to-5 job. I just think, and I know the necessity of them, and I was wrong about a lot of things, but I will die on that hill. I think we are meant for more than going to a place we hate for 8 to 10 hours a day just to earn money to eat. I think it's an inane system. And I know capitalism and all that, and that's the whole like, what else would you do? I don't know. All I know is that you get one life, and if you hate your job, you're wasting your one life. And most people I know hate their job, which is sad. I don't hate my job. I write. That is my job. So I treat it like a job. I'm serious about it, and I produce the work. And in exchange for that, I feel as though the universe, God grants me this, wide berth to sort of to do that. But I got to do my part and write the books. So that's how I maintain it.
Yeah. So true. I was fortunate. I love my job. I always wanted to be a state trooper and love going to work. Towards the end, I didn't because I had to deal with all the bureaucracy. But the job itself, I loved.
That's great.
Let me ask you this: when you say January and August, those are your start dates. How long does it take you to write a book? And do you have deadlines? Do you put down like certain amount of words per day?
Yeah, I mean, so here's the the weird thing is, as I write a draft really really fast. I mean, I can tell you how many days, but it would make it would sound like showing off. I write a draft of a book really fast. I can't begin to actually work on a book until I have the words on a page. So I just almost stream of conscious, without the navel gazing, but just as fast as I can. Characters are dead on page 5, they're alive on page 6. There's a pet, now he's gone. Like, I don't go back, I don't rewrite. Like, I might tinker just to get back into the mood, but I mean, I just go. I want to go from page 1 to page 300 as fast as I can, because once I have a shape, it's kind of like I look at it like sculpting. Like now I can work with something. Until I get that block of clay down there, I can't do anything. And I hate first drafts. I know there's some people who love them. I cannot stand them. I'd rather do anything. I'd rather bite my own neck. I cannot stand it. It's just not something I want to do. Rewriting, however, I love. And then getting to pull out the threads and your themes and your story and your arc and your twists and the characters and that's where the writing becomes fun for me. And I can't get there until I sort of get through all that muck and jumble. So I write fast, and then I spend the bulk of the next 6 months, getting that story into shape. And I usually finish, sometime around June. You give myself a nice, and I get the summer with the boys, June and July, and then we hang out, and then they go back to school in August, and I start the process again.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: when you, because like I said, my first fiction book is done. I'm actually working on my second now, but I primarily write true crime, and the characters are the characters, so I know who they are. I got the bad guy, the serial killer. I got the victims, I got those lined up, and then I got the officers, and then where how that plays out, I can set up. When you are putting together this list of fictitious characters, their traits, their backgrounds, the description, do you write that down on a piece of paper that this is Joe Porter, this is his, this is how tall he is?
I've done that, and it just sounds too much like high school to me. I prefer to keep this. My head is a constant, just jumbly, noisy radio wave mess, And they used to medicate me for it with Seroquel. It turned like you just get used to that buzzing, those voices, and you live with it. And part of the nice thing is that you're always writing, right? So it's always going on. And when I do the same thing you do, I take a true crime story, but unlike you, instead of reporting it factually, I then let it, kind of get warped and morphed, and I twist it around. So I take the basis of a true crime story, and then I change this and I change that. And by the end, it doesn't really resemble what it originally was. There might be an original kind of kidnapping of a sister. There might be, a missing guy or, whatever. But by the end, I put in all of my things. But I do like to use true crime as a basis. When you go come down to it, there's really only 2 stories we tell. And this is, an old adage that I'm sure you've heard, is that a man goes on a journey, a stranger comes to town. That's it. It's the same story from a different point of view. All the nuance, it's us. It's how you tell the story. It's how you report it. So yeah, when you were talking about crime, we got, you got dead bodies, you got missing people, you got, something unsolved, and you've got, your character who has to be carrying some kind of, like everybody, their own baggage, and then you play by the rules of the genre. And each book gets easier in that sense, but it also becomes harder because you get set in your ways. I'm sort of used to writing a certain book, and I've attained a level of success with that. But now I'm much much like a much like a batter who was had a nice good run. Pitchers figure it out, and now you got to make some adjustments, and that's the stage I'm at now. I'm trying to make the adjustments because I don't think commercialism is a bad word. I it's I like I don't I just, you talk about it when we in grad school, they were like, oh, it's selling out. So I'd love to sell out. Just let me buy in. I'd love it.
You got to whisper that out in California, don't you?
It's
Yes.
we just sold something. There's a novel I wrote with several other authors, edited by the great Gary Phillips and Richard Brewer. Book's called Culprits, and it was optioned by Disney Plus, but it's actually going into production. So that's going to come out on Hulu next year. So there's a little Hollywood coming my way, which is fantastic.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, how it is. You get these successes in the field, and they feel good for about 1/10 of how bad the rejections feel. Like like rejections can sting for weeks, and your success is like you feel good for an hour and a half. You're like, yeah, all right. It's so disproportionate.
Well, yeah, and also that's what drives you, though. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's clear that you have drive, and that that is something that I could, just by reading about you, I could tell that you're a person that has a lot of drive and ambition. That's why I wanted to reach out and speak with you. Part of this, this endeavor here is a learning process for me, speaking with people. So certainly your ambition and drive and the way you're right. I'm still impressed that you keep all these characters in your head, because how do you, my editor kicked back a couple of things because I had changed, something that this guy was in charge, and then later on, this guy was in charge. I didn't realize that I had changed that dynamic. Thank God it was that minor. It wasn't, a major rewrite. So it's pretty impressive that you can keep all those characters in your.
Writing's a form of insanity, so you just find to make the insanity work for you. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I have, you have to do your research and you have things jotted down, but I've never done the whole, in fact, I was thinking about this new book, should do one of those Scrivener things where this connects to that. I don't even know how that works. That sounds like math to me, man. I'm not, that's not what I do. But I'm not opposed to it. Just I sort of, I believe in method writing, much like method acting, where you sort of submerge yourself into that world and the characters. And my poor wife, every time when I was writing the Jay Porter books, every time, she'd see me, I'd grow the beard out and I'd start wearing wool cap indoors and drinking small batch IPAs. And she'd be like, oh God, this again. Cause you sort of adopt the characteristics and the mannerisms and you become that person. I know it sounds goofy as hell that your character, character speak to you. I was like, oh, shut up, your character don't speak. They do. You become these people, and you have to wear their skins and really get inside them to think about how they are. And they're part of you, but they're not you. They're and that's what drives fiction.
Yeah, no, I agree. They got little traits, and I agree. Like my first fiction book, not all the research I did beforehand, and what you had said about the research you write a fiction book if it's taking place in, like my book is taking place in the city of Hoboken. There's got to be, I got to get the city of Hoboken right, because if there's anyone reading it, they'll go, this fundamentally it's flawed, because he didn't even do research on the main street in Hoboken. And there's one scene where it's a PI, retired cop. Now he's selling his gun, and it's funny, as a scene, he's sitting there, he's drinking. He drinks a little. I'm not a drinker at all, even though you would think Irish, Irish guy, oh, he's a drinker. Now, I have one scotch, once a week, but. So he's sitting there and he's watching this girl jog, and he's of course commenting on her. And then as she passes, he makes a comment about her to see if her spandex was as supportive, as it was from the front as it is in the back. And my wife is obviously proofreading it, and she went, "You pervert." I'm like, "It's not me." She's like, "No, yeah, it's you." I'm like, "No, it's got elements of me. Yeah, the guy's a martial artist and he's a retired trooper, but it's not me."
if I've gotten in so much trouble. I mean, I borrow people we know, and I'll take my wife's friends, and I put them as love interests in books because they just I like using real life characters, and boy does she get pissed when I do that. But you know, whatever. I mean, it's my art, and you know, she married a writer, and we borrow, we steal. You know, if I find you have a conversation with me at a party, you know, and I like your idea, you know, Steve, I'm going to use it for, you know, my rags to riches short story, and not give you credit. That's just what you do. Writers steal. And
Speaking of that, my one book on Amazon. I look and I'm going, oh, someone else wrote a book about the serial killer. No, it's my book, and it's my book. Like they just basically copied it, and now they're selling it on Amazon. So I'm trying to get that removed. Actually, it's like three or four up there. It's the same book. It's my book. And you would think, I reached out to the publisher, you'd think it would be like an easy thing to do.
oh no. There's so little. there's so little to be shared, and it's such, you know, as soon as you have a dream, there's a whole world of people out there looking to exploit that dream, and they love doing nothing more. So you you know, yeah, it's just another, you know, I have so many people that want a free book, and I don't mind sending out books, right? But like people will pay $5 for a cup of coffee at Starbucks, but they don't want to pay $5 for a book. You know, they go to downloading sites and they download it illegally. I don't know if they think that every author's secretly as rich as Stephen King or J.K. Rowling, but like my money didn't come from books. You know, I got hit by a bus. Like I married well, you know, other things, financial investments. But like I'm like, you know, money from books, I do okay. But I think people have this idea that authors all like we just rake in the cash. It's not true.
Doesn't that drive you crazy? I had an uncle. I tell this story. I had an uncle. Like if I called him up and said, you know what, I need $1,000, he would, you know, he doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of money. He would send it to me. He would not buy that book. He kept on insisting.
My fucking uncle has not bought a single book of mine. In fact, he waits for my cousin every time to give him a free copy. And so my cousin has to buy the book, have me sign it to him, and then he will take it.
Yeah.
I mean, and the guy has money, not bought a single fucking book.
Yeah.
And no offense, Uncle Tony, if you're listening to this, but like you're fucking as cheap as my dad, always have been. So, you know, buy a book, stop making Celeste buy all the books. It's kind of shitty.
Yeah. Oh, it drives me crazy. Everyone thinks, and you do have to market your stuff. I don't market too well. I don't drive around with a whole mess of books in my car. You know, some people do. Probably should have a couple, but everyone expects a free book. Yeah, it drives me crazy too. So it's good to know I'm not the only one. I will if you come out to the East Coast, or if I come out to you're San Fran, right? San Francisco.
Yeah.
I will definitely buy you a book, and I will ask for a signed copy.
Do the same for you.
There you go.
No. I mean, you gripe about this stuff, and then there's like, then I always feel bad griping about because like somewhere there's somebody right now, like, you know, frying a squirrel over an open fire, and like they, you know, haven't showered in 2 months, and like I've got it good, like you got it good, we got it good. It's just you know, like it's just never enough. And I don't know if it's because, you know, it's the artistic mindset, or it's a drive thing, or it's just still, like I said, that impetuous childish impulse that got me in trouble in the first place. But you know, it's always more. It's never enough, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe that leads to some good things, but you know, maybe at some point you back off, or that could be my psychiatrist talking. I don't know. He tells me I should be kinder to myself.
Well, no, I agree with you. I have like an obsessive, you know, personality, and I never, fortunately, knock on wood, I never went down your path. But probably if I did, I probably would have just like you, because when I do something, I do it.
Yeah, right. So if I'm gonna be a junkie, I'll be the best. Yeah.
Exactly. When I do something, I do it, and that's good. And you know what? And that's why and that's what helped you when you were like, you know what, I'm going to get out of this, and you did it.
It's really true. It's what got me into trouble, but it's also what got me out of the trouble. So
Exactly. And I admire that. And that was, again, I can't say I could see when I was reading about you, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to like this guy. I'm going to like him.
My wife says I'm charming in short bursts. So if you'd like me for an extended period of time, I tend to be a little, I think, grate on people after a while, but
Yeah, exactly. Well, my wife will definitely confirm that I'm not the warm and fuzzy type either.
well, that's why they call them the better halves, right? That's
Yeah,
what we,
right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, it's been really enjoyable. I'm not going to take too much of your time, but I really enjoyed the conversation.